The mockery, the galaxy was a place of shining stars and endless civilizations. Across thousands of worlds, alien empires rose and fell, each one proud of its history, its weapons, and its warriors. Among these powers, one name was always spoken with laughter, not fear: humanity. To the aliens, humans were newcomers. They had only recently joined the Great Council of Species. Their ships looked small compared to the vast dreadnoughts of other empires. Their weapons seemed old, their armor too light, their bodies fragile. They did not have claws like the reptilians, nor the thick hides of the insectoids, nor the massive strength of the giant species from the outer rim. To the eyes of the galaxy, humans were weak. In the grand halls of the Intergalactic Council, many alien leaders made jokes about Earth. Humans? They barely survived their own wars. How could they survive ours? One alien general sneered, his voice echoing in the chamber. Another added, "Their armies are tiny. Their technology is behind. They rely on luck, not skill." Laughter filled the council. They spoke as if humanity was nothing more than a minor annoyance, a child pretending to fight among giants. But behind the cold stares and laughter, humans listened. They did not argue back. They did not boast about victories they had not yet earned. They sat quietly, their expressions calm, their eyes steady. They heard every insult. They remembered every word. The aliens mistook silence for weakness. They thought humans were ashamed. But in truth, humans were waiting. They were patient. They were planning, far away from the Council's chambers, in hidden bases on the edge of Earth's colonies. Human soldiers trained day and night. Their commanders did not speak of glory. They spoke of survival, of discipline, of never leaving a comrade behind. The soldiers knew what the galaxy thought of them. They heard the stories, the laughter, the whispers of mockery. But instead of breaking their spirit, it only lit a fire inside them. A young soldier once asked his commander, "Sir, why do they all hate us? Why do they think we are weak?" The commander replied simply, "Because they do not understand us. And when the day comes, they will." That day came sooner than anyone expected. On the edge of the Orion sector, a war had erupted. A powerful alien empire, the Threx Dominion, had invaded a smaller world. They expected an easy victory. The council debated for weeks, arguing about who should send troops. Many great empires hesitated, not wanting to risk their fleets. And then, to the shock of the galaxy, it was Earth that volunteered. Humans? One alien ambassador laughed aloud. "You will send your army to fight the Threx? This is a joke." Even the smaller worlds, who usually supported humanity, doubted them. No one believed Earth could make a difference. At best, they thought humans would arrive, fight for a few days, and be crushed. The news spread across the stars, the weak humans ascending their tiny army into real war. The galaxy laughed, but the humans prepared. As the human fleet gathered, there were no speeches of arrogance. The soldiers tightened their armor, checked their weapons, and said quiet goodbyes to their families. They did not see themselves as weak. They knew their strength was not in size, not in technology, but in something far greater: their will to fight, even when the odds were impossible. The night before departure, one captain wrote in her log, "They think we are weak. Tomorrow, we will show them who we are." Not with words, but with action. On the day of the launch, alien observers came to watch. They saw the small human ships lifting off. They saw the soldiers marching in silence, faces set with determination. To the aliens it looked pitiful, almost sad, like lambs being sent to slaughter. One alien general muttered, "This will be over in hours. The humans will beg for mercy." Another replied, "If they survive a single battle, it will be a miracle." And so the galaxy mocked, laughed, and waited to see Earth fail. But the humans did not laugh. They did not argue. They simply tightened their grips on their rifles, raised their flags, and moved forward. At that moment, in the silence before war, something powerful was born. It was not in the size of their ships. It was not in the strength of their weapons. It was in their spirit, the spirit of a people who had survived wars on their own fragile planet. the spirit of a people who had faced hunger, disasters, and enemies greater than themselves, and still stood tall. The spirit of humanity. The aliens thought they were watching a weak army march into certain defeat, but in truth, they were watching the beginning of a legend. The first encounter, the Threx Dominion, was ready. Their warships filled the skies above the small world of Kala. The planet burned with fire and smoke as the Threx army advanced across its surface. Villages were destroyed, cities were in ruins, and the cries of the weak echoed into the stars. The Threx were feared for their cruelty. They had conquered dozens of worlds, crushing every enemy without mercy. Their ships were sharp and black, like giant blades cutting through the void. Their soldiers were tall, armored, and merciless. No one had ever stood against them for long. When news arrived that humans were on their way, the Threx generals laughed. "Humans," one commander said with a sneer. "Send the weaklings. Let them bleed first. It will make our victory more amusing," the other Threx agreed. They expected Earth's soldiers to arrive in chaos, to fight clumsily, and to die quickly. They prepared to humiliate the newcomers in front of the galaxy. On the edge of the system, the human fleet entered real combat space for the first time. The ships were smaller than the alien dreadnoughts, their hulls less polished, their weapons more practical than elegant. But inside, the soldiers sat in silence. Their hearts raced, but not from fear. From determination. Captain Rains, leader of the ground forces, looked over his men and women. Their faces were calm, focused. He remembered the council's laughter. He remembered the words weak and fragile. He spoke quietly, his voice steady. "Today they expect us to fail. They expect us to break. Show them what it means to be human," the soldiers nodded. No cheering, no shouting, just silent resolve. The battle began in orbit. Threx warships closed in, their black hulls shining under the system's twin suns. Alien commanders mocked the humans over open channels. "Turn back, little earthlings. This is not your war. Save yourselves before we scatter your bones into space." But the humans did not answer. Their ships formed tight formations, shields overlapping, weapons aimed. When the first volley came, they absorbed it, shields straining but holding. Then the humans struck back. Their ships did not rely on brute force. Instead, they used clever maneuvers. Sudden dives into asteroid fields, sharp turns that confused enemy targeting, coordinated strikes that hit weak spots instead of strong armor. The Threx expected chaos. What they found was precision. Alien generals blinked at their monitors, confused. These formations, they are fighting like they've done this 1,000 times. But humans had done it, not in space, but across centuries of war on Earth. Every soldier carried the memory of battles fought by their ancestors. From swords and arrows to tanks and aircraft, humanity had always learned, adapted, survived. Now those lessons echoed in the stars. Then came the ground war. Human dropships pierced through the atmosphere, flames surrounding their hulls. They landed in broken cities, in dusty plains, in burning forests. The Threx soldiers waited, tall and armored, weapons glowing. They laughed when they saw the smaller human forms step onto the battlefield. But the laughter did not last. The humans spread out quickly, moving in small squads, covering each other with precision fire. They used the ruins for cover, the smoke for ambushes, the environment itself as a weapon. The Threx charged in numbers, believing strength alone would crush the humans. But they found themselves walking into traps, streets rigged with explosives, crossfire waiting at every corner. Soldiers who never stopped fighting even when outnumbered. One Threx commander roared, "Why do they not run? Why do they not surrender?" His troops began to falter. They had never faced an enemy who fought with such stubbornness. Every time a human soldier fell, another stepped forward. Every time a line broke, someone filled the gap. Their armor might be weaker, their weapons smaller, but their spirit was unbreakable. A squad of humans held a collapsed bridge for hours against waves of Threx. Covered in dust and blood, their leader shouted through the chaos, "They think we're weak. Show them our strength." His words carried across the comms, filling every soldier with fire. Up above, alien observers from neutral worlds watched the battle through hidden channels. At first, they expected the humans to fall within minutes. But as the hours passed, their laughter turned into silence. They should not be winning, one whispered. This is impossible. Yet it was happening before their eyes. The so-called weak army was holding the line against one of the most feared forces in the galaxy. And not just holding, they were pushing back. By the end of the first day, the Threks were furious. They had lost more troops than expected. Their soldiers were shaken. For the first time, the Dominion realized that humans were not what they seemed. That night, around alien campfires and across galactic communication channels, the whispers began. The humans, they do not break. They do not surrender. They fight like demons. The galaxy had mocked them. The Threks had laughed. But the first encounter was only the beginning. The humans had shown a glimpse of what they could do. And soon the galaxy would learn the full truth. The weak army was not weak at all. The hidden strength, the first day of battle, shocked the galaxy. The humans had not broken. The weak army had stood its ground. But the Threx dominion was far from finished. Their fleets outnumbered the humans 3-1. Their ground forces still controlled much of the planet. By all logic, the humans should have been exhausted, ready to collapse, and yet, when the second day began, the humans fought harder. On the ruined streets of Kayla's capital city, human squads moved with perfect coordination. They did not fight like other species. Most alien armies relied on numbers and strength, marching in large formations, overwhelming their enemies with size. The humans were different. They moved in small groups, each soldier protecting the other, each squad supporting the next. Their communication was fast, their decisions quick. Where other armies panicked, humans adapted. A squad leader gave short commands through the chaos. Cover left flank. Push forward. Grenades on my mark. The orders were clear, simple. And every soldier obeyed without hesitation. The Threks were larger, their weapons stronger, but their formations collapsed under the humans' constant pressure. The Dominion soldiers expected fear. Instead, they found fire. Alien observers whispered as they watched the battles. These humans, they don't fight like us. They fight like predators, like hunters. One alien commander, who had once mocked Earth, stared at his screen in disbelief. Their strength is not in their weapons. It is in their minds. The humans had another secret. They had studied war not only in space, but across history. On Earth, they had fought endless battles against nature, against themselves, against impossible odds. Every war had taught them something new, and now, on Kalor, those lessons lived again. When the Threks expected a head-on charge, the humans vanished into the shadows, striking from the sides. When the Threks believed they had trapped a squad, the humans used decoys, drawing them into ambushes. When outnumbered, humans did not retreat. They fought harder, forcing the Threks to pay for every inch of ground. The galaxy had seen strength, but it had never seen human cunning. On the third night, Captain Rains stood over a holographic map, marking enemy positions. His officers gathered around him, tired but unbroken. They have numbers. They have ships. They think that makes them invincible, Rains said, his voice steady. But they don't understand us. We don't fight to look strong. We fight to survive. And survival has made us smarter than them. His officers nodded. No one needed speeches. They all understood. As the battle raged, strange stories began to spread among the Threx ranks. Soldiers whispered of humans who refused to die, who kept fighting even when wounded, who protected each other with unnatural loyalty. One Threx commander shouted in anger, "They fight like they have nothing to lose." But he was wrong. Humans fought because they had everything to lose. Families, homes, a fragile world worth protecting. That was their hidden strength. In orbit, human pilots showed the same spirit. Their ships were smaller, less advanced, but the pilots used every trick, sharp dives, sudden turns, daring maneuvers that no Threx would dare attempt. One alien officer gasped as he watched a single human fighter weave through enemy fire, taking down 3 larger ships before vanishing into an asteroid field. "That is madness," he muttered. Madness. Or genius. The galaxy had mocked them. They had called humanity fragile, inferior, weak, but now fear began to spread. If humans could fight like this with such little technology, what would they become in a century? In a millennium? Alien council members who once laughed now sat in silence, watching every report. Their faces were grim. "They are not weak," one ambassador whispered. "They are dangerous." Back on Kalor, the Threx launched one final push to crush the humans. They sent their heaviest weapons, their strongest warriors. Entire districts shook as battles tore through the city. The humans should have fallen. By every calculation, they should have been wiped out. But they stood. Squad after squad held their ground. Wounded soldiers refused to retreat. Commanders led from the front, never asking their troops to face what they themselves would not. The Threx advanced with rage. The humans answered with determination. By dawn, the Threx assault collapsed. The humans were still standing. That day, the whispers across the galaxy changed into warnings. The humans fight with something we do not understand. They fight with hope. They fight for each other. They fight until the last breath. The weak army had revealed its hidden strength. And the galaxy, once full of laughter, now trembled in silence because they all knew this was only the beginning. The turning point, the Threx dominion had never known fear. They had crushed worlds, enslaved species, and burned civilizations into ash. For them, war was routine, victory inevitable. But Kalor was different. For 3 days, the weak humans refused to fall. Every strategy the Threx used, the humans countered. Every advance was slowed. Every strike was met with resistance. The Dominion generals were furious. "They are insects," one shouted in the War Council. "And yet they resist us as if they are wolves." Another replied, his voice sharp with unease. "They fight without fear of death. They fight for something greater." Still, the Threx believed their numbers would eventually overwhelm the humans. Victory was only a matter of time, or so they thought. At dawn on the 4th day, the sky over Kalor burned with fire. The Dominion unleashed their greatest weapon, the Devourer, a massive war machine built to end battles in hours. It was a towering beast of metal, taller than skyscrapers, armed with cannons that could melt steel and shields that no enemy had ever pierced. When the Devourer landed, the ground shook. The Threx roared with triumph. "Now," they said, "the humans will finally break." Alien observers from across the galaxy tuned in to watch. Many expected the slaughter to begin. They whispered, "This will be the end of the human foolishness," but it was not the end. It was the beginning of something no one could forget. Captain Rains saw the giant war machine rise in the distance. His soldiers stood with him, their armor cracked, their weapons scratched, their bodies tired. Yet their eyes burned with determination. He spoke calmly into his comms. "We've been underestimated from the start. They think this machine will break us. Today, we show them what humanity does when it has no choice." The soldiers tightened their grips. There was no hesitation. The battle for Kalor's capital began with thunder. The Devourer advanced, crushing buildings under its massive steps. Cannons fired, sending waves of fire across the streets. The Threx soldiers marched behind it, certain of victory, but the humans did not retreat. Instead, they split into small squads, surrounding the machine from all sides. Rockets launched, bullets tore through the smoke, grenades shattered its escorts. The humans moved like shadows, striking from every angle. The Devourer roared, its shields glowing as they absorbed the first attacks. The Threx laughed again. "It is hopeless," they shouted. "No one defeats the Devourer." But the humans did not give up. They studied the machine, looking for weaknesses. Every failed strike taught them something new. Every lost soldier's sacrifice revealed another clue. A pilot in the sky noticed the shield flicker when the cannons fired. A ground squad discovered that its rear armor was weaker than the front. Engineers patched comms together and shouted coordinates, guiding fire to exact points. Bit by bit, the humans learned. And then, together, they struck. The final assault came at night. The humans moved under the cover of smoke and shadows. Rockets hit the rear plating. Snipers fired at exposed joints. Pilots dived dangerously close, drawing the machine's fire away from the ground, and then one squad of soldiers charged beneath its massive frame. Carrying explosives on their backs, they planted them deep into the machine's joints, knowing most of them would not return. The Devourer unleashed one final blast, shaking the city. But then, silence. A moment later, fire erupted from within the machine. Its shields failed. Its cannons shut down. With a deafening roar, the Devourer collapsed, crashing into the ruins it had once sought to conquer. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The Threx army froze. Their greatest weapon was gone. The humans, fragile, mocked, underestimated, had done the impossible. Captain Rains stood on the rubble, his voice carrying across the comms. They thought we were weak. They thought we would break. But humanity does not break. Humanity fights. His soldiers roared in reply, their voices echoing through the night. Across the galaxy, fear spread. The council that once laughed now trembled. If humans could destroy the Devourer with such little technology, what would they do when their fleets grew stronger? An alien ambassador whispered what others already feared. Today they defeated the Threx. Tomorrow they may change the galaxy forever. That night, the humans stood victorious on Kalor. They mourned their dead, but they did not bow their heads. They had proven something greater than strength. They had proven the will to endure, the will to fight, the will to survive. The turning point had come. The weak human army was weak no more. The legacy, the battlefield of Kalor, was silent at last. Smoke curled into the night sky, the ruins still burning from days of war. Human soldiers stood among the rubble, their armor cracked, their faces scarred, but their eyes alive with fire. The Threx dominion had retreated. Their mighty fleets pulled back, their proud generals humiliated. For the first time in centuries, the unstoppable conquerors had been stopped. Not by another galactic superpower, not by a wealthy empire, but by the so-called weaklings of Earth. The humans had done the impossible. News of Kalor spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, in council chambers, marketplaces, and hidden bars, the same words were spoken again and again. The humans defeated the Threx. At first, some refused to believe it. They demanded proof, recordings, evidence, and when the footage was shown, the Devourer collapsing in flames, human soldiers charging through fire, wounded men and women still standing when logic said they should have fallen, the galaxy fell into stunned silence. The laughter that once filled council halls was gone. In its place was fear and respect. On Earth, the families of the soldiers waited in hope and terror. When the news arrived, tears and cheers filled the streets. Mothers embraced children, fathers saluted pictures of their lost sons and daughters, and across the planet, one phrase became a cry of pride: humanity stands. But the victory was not only Earth's, it was a warning to the stars. In the Intergalactic Council, the tone toward humans shifted overnight. The same alien leaders who once mocked them now spoke in hushed voices. "They are not to be underestimated," one ambassador said. "If they can defeat the Threx, they can defeat anyone." Another added, "They fight differently. They fight with something we do not understand." The council chambers, once filled with laughter at the word human, were now filled with unease. Some spoke of alliances. Others spoke of threats. But no one dared mock them again. Meanwhile, in hidden corners of the galaxy, oppressed species whispered of hope. For centuries, they had lived under the boots of empires, believing no one could stand against them. But now they had seen the humans, fragile, outnumbered, and underestimated, rise up and win. "If the humans can fight the Threx," they whispered, "then maybe we can fight too." Rebellion sparked in places where there had only been silence. The story of humanity spread not as a tale of weakness, but as a legend of strength. Yet for the humans themselves, victory was not about power or conquest. Captain Rains stood among his surviving soldiers, looking out at the battlefield. His heart was heavy with loss, but his voice was strong. "They will call us dangerous," he said. They will fear us. But remember this, we did not fight to conquer. We fought to survive. We fought for each other. That is what makes us human." His soldiers nodded, weary but proud. They knew their victory was more than just a battle. It was a message to the galaxy. The message was simple but unshakable. Humans may be fragile, but they are unbreakable. Humans may be small, but they stand taller than giants when united. Humans may bleed, but they never surrender. The galaxy had seen strength in claws, fangs, armor, and weapons. But now it had seen a different kind of strength, the strength of will, of spirit, of courage, and that terrified them more than any weapon ever could. Years later, veterans of Kala would speak of the battle with quiet pride. They would not call themselves heroes. They would say only, "We showed them what it means to be human." But across alien worlds, the story grew into something greater. It became legend. Songs were sung, tales were told, and even enemies admitted in secret, the humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because of their weapons, not because of their numbers, but because they never, ever give up. The legacy of Kalor was not the ruins, not the victory, not even the defeat of the Threx. The legacy was a new truth written into the stars. The weak army that the galaxy had mocked was no longer weak. The humans had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same.